So let's start this session. It's 6:02, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining this session today. This is a very special session for us at IIT Madras Bangalore Chapter, um, as we are reviving this series, Entrepreneur Sadda today, and we will be launching a book also, the IITM Nexus. So before that, let me introduce myself to you. I am Niket Dikshit of Bangalore IIT Madras Bangalore chapter. Um, we the plan today. I mean, IIT Madras Bangalore chapter as such is a geographical unit, which is for the people who are physically located in Bangalore. I mean, this was before pandemic, when we were organizing the physical events. So that way, we have geographical units. You would have Bangalore chapter, you would have Hyderabad chapter, and different chapters. Similarly, we are Bangalore chapter, around 4,500 alumni strong. Um, we used to do number of activities, like these knowledge series for people based out of here. But since the pandemic, since the onset of this pandemic, we are doing all our events online. And for this reason, now we are not restricting our events only for Bangalore. I mean, the people based physically in Bangalore, and those are for everybody, all the IIT alumni. Now, coming to Entrepreneur Sadda, as I said, this is a very special session today. I mean, we were organizing these sessions from 2014 to 2019, and somewhere then this event of Corona happened, and somewhere we stopped organizing these events. But when I organized my first town hall in November, December last year, I got to know people still recall and miss this series a lot. And then as a team, we decided, executive committee of Bangalore chapter, we decided that somewhere we would initiate this session again. So that is why we are having this first session today of this knowledge series, Entrepreneur Sadda. You will see a lot more sessions in near future. But for the first session, we have kept this very special. As I said, we are launching a book today, the IITM Nexus. We will go in detail of that. And but before that, I want to acknowledge presence of some distinguished people who are among us. Let me start that with Mr. Krishna Narayanan, who is the president of IIT Madras Alumni Association. We have Dr. Shrikant Sundararajan, who is general partner at Venture East. Shri Pandey, authors of this book, the IITM Nexus. As our agenda says that we have four panelists. We have a panel discussion, and our four panelists are Mr. Amrit Acharya, who is co-founder of and CEO of Jetwork, Mr. Rajiv Shrivats, partner and investor Antler India, co-founder Urban Ladder, Mr. Kedar Kulkarni, co-founder and CEO Hyperverge, Mr. Narsimha Reddy, board member, CFO, head of strategy, Mo Engage. The session would be moderated by our very own Anusha, who is part of our executive committee, and also she is working professionally with as power and performance engineer with Intel Corp. So lot more things you can expect from this session. Let me call somebody whose guidance is always with Bangalore chapter, who is somebody who is earlier with Bangalore chapter and now heading the IIT Madras Alumni Association. Let me invite Mr. Krishna Narayanan, President IIT Madras Alumni Association, on this virtual stage to give us his words of wisdom. Over to you, Krishna.
Thanks, Niket. Good evening, folks. Of course, delighted to be in this forum. ADDA, I remember, Shrikant, and I, we had started this many years back. I don't know whether, of course, the conversations and so on was very enticing, or the beer that was served. I don't know what the magic was, but it attracted so many students from IIT Madras. I remember people coming in a bus to attend this event, right? So I'm really glad that this is kind of revived, and of course, thanks to Amrit, Rajiv, Kedar, Narsimha for being part of this, this relaunched ADDA. I do want to talk, just very high level At the IIT Madras Alumni Association, we have taken on a sort of a new direction. There are three focus pillars that we have identified for the association. First one is called community spirit, which is really engagement with alumni. You can think of this as one such activity under that. The second one is thought leadership, which is really thought leadership from our alumni on positions of science, technology, and innovation. And the book is an example of that, and we are supporting it. And the third is societal impact. And there are two missions that we have identified that we are tracking. The first one is called Mission 5,000 Ignited Minds, which is to get 5,000 alumni as committed volunteers. And the second mission is called Mission Million Smiles, which is to positively impact at least 1 million people in India and in our local communities over the next 2 years. In fact, this morning, we had our EC meeting. We were just reviewing our 6-monthly report card. And I'm extremely delighted to share with you, and I'm sure you will receive the report pretty soon, that we are actually doing very well on these things. We are actually above target. We are at about 30%, nearly 30% each with respect to our goals on both these missions. And so I encourage you to learn more about this. I'm sure Nishani and Niket will share information with you, and I'll encourage you to sign up to be a volunteer and participate in this. And the final thing for me is, of course, this book launch is very special. Congratulations to Shrikant, Shri, and Shibani on coming up with this fantastic book. Featuring the story. So really, this is amazing. This is fantastic. We had one event at the research park. So much energy, so much positive feedback we got. I really, congratulate them. Also, I want to highlight one thing, that they have committed the proceeds of this book to the IIT Madras Alumni Association for spending towards entrepreneurship and the girl child and STEM activities. So I really commend them for this amazing gesture, and my best wishes for this book. Thank you so much. Back to you, Niket.
Thank you so much, Krishnan, for these wonderful words. And initially, I didn't mention that even Shibani is with us today, who is also co-author of this book. And also, I want to acknowledge presence of Nishani, Maha, and Rakesh, who is helping us with these events. So thank you so much for attending these events. Now, moving on, I want to invite on this virtual stage the good Dr. Shrikant Sundararajan and Shri to speak about this book and maybe share their views about this book with all of us today. Over to you.
Thank you, Niket. Thank you, everyone. I think let's just go back to 2014, right? 2014 would be a good starting point because Krishnan and I met up in Bangalore. I was with Helion at that time. And essentially, we were thinking, we're doing such good work at IITM, but essentially we are not branding ourselves well, number one. Number two, there was also kind of a concern that in the top 100 JE ranks, I think IIT Madras was not very prominent. And there were a variety of reasons, because a lot of strange reputation went around saying that it is a very, very strict place, it's too far out, it's not very well integrated. So we said, let's just sit back and start this ADDA series. We'll get the students from IIT Madras to come out, mingle with folks in Bangalore, mingle with startups, and let's see what happens. And for whatever strange reason, call it probably beer, call it basically the energy. It's difficult to put a finger on it. We ran this thing, which was a physical event, I think once every 2.5 months, thanks to a lot of sponsorship from the local VC community here in Bangalore. And it ran from 2014 to 2017, or middle of 2017 or so, which was my last physical ADDA. And then I kind of shifted to Hyderabad, and basically it continued on till 2019, I believe, until we had COVID. But this thing was still there in my head, and we couldn't actually try to we did try actually to do a couple remotely, but did not succeed. And then, of course, I had a couple of medical mishaps. I think I got a bad attack of COVID followed by a stroke. And that's when Shivani and Shri had come and said, hey, can't we just do a book? That'll be great. So this was the beginning of a brainstorm. We said, let's do it like a project. Let's figure out what we want to convey. And what we wanted to convey was, IIT Madras is a great platform for people from all across India, diverse backgrounds, to come in, enjoy 4 or 5 years, and actually have a number of experiences where they would start thinking entrepreneurially and actually go on to do stuff. And we also wanted to make sure that we covered a reasonable time span so that this was somewhat consistent. So that was basically the objective of the book. And we said, like, whatever comes from the book, let's just give it back to IIT Madras Alumni Association for some good causes, especially entrepreneurship and education, right? So that is the basis. And then all I did was, while I was in bed and in a wheelchair, started kind of sending emails. It was good for me. It was good for the kids. I think they got to interact with a lot of senior folks, senior alum. I know Shivani is not from IIT Madras, but we just have to thank her a lot because she actually put in a lot of hours, because actually language was very, very important, at least in the first few versions, and making sure that everyone's happy. And somehow we made it over the line. It took a total of maybe 13 or 14 months. And here we are. This is the book to all the 4,500 IITM alums in Bangalore. Please pick up a copy because all the proceeds go back to IITM. And we'll make sure that it's actually utilized wisely because Krishna has promised that. And so has the IIT Madras Alumni Association. So thank you very much. I will hand it over to Shri and Shivani because they actually will give you more details about a lot of frustrations of going back and forth. Go ahead.
So hello everyone. I'm Shri over here and we have Shivani also with us. So we'll just take a couple of minutes to brief up on the small parts. So being from IIT Madras, I think the important part that we got to see is we have a very, very big alumni ecosystem. But this alumni ecosystem comes with two things. One, it's so big that it feels unachievable. And at the same time, there are so many prominent names, like Rajiv is over here, even Shrikant sir is one of them, where we don't even know how to far away be like them, how to even know that what to take the first step. And I think in such a confusion stage, and specifically when it comes to startup, which is highly fast growing field, at the same time you have so many things to work on, I think getting Shrikant sir with us cleared our mind a bit. And then he came with his very, very long-term plans, which I think me and Shiva had very small vision to even look at them. With our small eyes, we were like, okay, if this book can even happen, if these things are even possible. And then we started reaching out to people. And I think everybody remained positive. Especially Krish sir, we messaged him so many times over here. That sir, the book will be launched. And every time Krishnan sir replied, okay, I'll help. And this was a very regular thing and process where it helped. And I think Shiva, you can take over.
Yeah, for me, definitely it was a very enlightening experience, not being from IIT Madras myself. I got a lot of exposure to the vast alumni network of IIT Madras. And I think, like Shri said, we as students had not expected that we could even take up such a project and accomplish this. It was Shrikant sir whose vision actually helped us get from inception of the book to taking the interviews, compiling numerous drafts, editing, re-editing, improvising, and then getting it to publishing. So Shrikant sir has really played a big part in guiding the way for us while writing this book. And of course, the interactions with the entrepreneurs were the most fruitful part, I would say. And it was an amazing experience altogether.
So I think that's it. I think just go buy the book, just brand IITM. Hopefully we do a little bit more with this. because the vision is to actually extend this into a living platform, this book, with many versions of it. We covered 2 or 3 of our speakers in the book. It can become the basis for your offline kind of ADDA, because you can actually have the same person come and read their chapter, because that's what we used to do and call young startups from different backgrounds. It need not be from IITM, but some kind of, at least an employee can be with IITM. So that is phenomenal. So we want to continue to do this. And tomorrow, once we build the metaverse where people can actually contribute stuff, what we realize is let people contribute, and then we'll kind of chronicle and we again disseminate, right? So that's the goal. I'm working on that platform right now, and hopefully Shivani and Shri continue, or maybe I get more Shivanis and Shris to help me out from the Alum Association also. So thank you very much. Enjoy the session and enjoy the offline thing. It's unfortunate I won't be able to travel for a while, but do invite Shri and Shivani whenever they're in town to join in. And go IITM, go Bangalore, because Bangalore is a kind of a pseudo city for IITM anyway. So enjoy. And thank you, Niket.
Thank you, Dr. Shrikant, Shivani, and Shri. I mean, it was a good, for a person who doesn't know much about the book, I mean, you gave a very good introduction. And as Nishani mentioned, dropped a message in the chat box, this will be on my buy list from Amazon soon. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now we are almost on time. We have a panel discussion, and now let me invite Anusha to take over from here with the panel for the panel discussion. Over to you, Anusha.
Thanks, Niket. So I see we have 3 of our 4 panelists available today. I will just go ahead with a short introduction about each of them, and then we will move on to the panel discussion. So we have Mr. Narasimha Reddy here with us, who is an alumni from the 2006-2010 batch, and he is currently the board member and CFO at MoEngage. MoEngage is mostly an insights-led customer engagement platform that enables brands and marketers to create and execute and optimize their digital marketing campaigns. So, and they are, they have, I think, 8 offices across the world, and they have clients which include McAfee, Check, and in the US, and Flipkart, Ola, Airtel, etc. in India. So, welcome, Mr. Narasimha Reddy, to our panel discussion today. Next, we have Mr. Rajiv Srivatsa, who is currently the partner and investor at Antler India, and he is in charge of leading and deploying, leading the deployment and operations of Antler, which is a global early stage VC firm. And the goal is to build next set of outstanding founders and startups in India. And this involves raising local funds, building a local team here, and mentoring startups and founders. And he's also the co-founder of Urban Ladder, and he is from the 1996-2000 batch, and he also has experience with different companies such as CTS, Infosys, and Yahoo from his prior experiences. Next, we have Mr. Amrit Acharya, who's the co-founder and CEO at Zetwork. Zetwork is a B2B marketplace-focused company which is into custom manufacturing, and it deals with end-to-end manufacturing supply chain solutions provider, and is recently has become a unicorn. So we should be very proud of Mr. Amrit Acharya, and he is also from the 2006 and 2010 batch. Welcome to our panel discussion today. I think Amrit's video is not up, Anusha, yet. Hi.
Hi.
You are on mute, Amrit.
Hi, am I audible? Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Anusha, we can all hear him. Can you hear him? Anusha?
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Yes, I can hear. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for joining us in our panel discussion today. And so we will get started. So first question to Mr. Rajiv. So like I whatever little I've read about you, I understand that you've been an all-rounder at Insti and you've also pursued an MBA. So at what point did you think of starting Urban Ladder? Like Urban Ladder mostly dealt with furniture, right? Like why furniture is why, when did you think of starting up Urban Ladder and why did you get into the furniture business? Nishani, I think he's unable to unmute himself.
Yeah, so I think you should, you can unmute him as a host.
Okay.
Can you do that?
I think I'm on now. Yeah, hey, awesome to be at the panel. Hi, Narsima. Hi, Amrit. Thanks, Shrikant, Sri, and Shibani for having us as part of the book. And it's obviously great. I've attended some of the offline events in Bangalore, so it's good to hear that things are getting back to normal. So, Anusha, well, it's very difficult to pinpoint when exactly the idea of Urban Ladder came, but it was almost 10 years back, right, in terms of when we started. So, I mean, Ashish and me go back a long way. We were batchmates at IIM Bangalore, and we used to do a lot of stuff in campus together. So if you were to ask me really when, Urban Ladder was started, I would say in campus in IIM Bangalore, around 8 years before actually starting Urban Ladder, because pretty much every extracurricular activity, we just ensured that our grades were good enough and jumped into all of those activities. Then I went to Cognizant and Yahoo, where I learned the ropes on enterprise and consumer internet. And Ashish went to McKinsey and Amarchita Katha. And somewhere around 2011 end, approximately 10 years back, is when we said this is actually the 10th year anniversary of Urban Ladder. So we said, let's just do something. The first idea was not even furniture, it was grocery. Then we went into this was a time when there was no Big Basket and the other online players. So we said, let's just go understand whether this is a space we want to work in. We even met a VC at that time, one of the first VCs we met. And I think grocery just generally didn't excite us. And we said, let's just do something in the field of commerce. So one idea led to the other. We went through all the different ideas, from education to media to advertising to energy to everything possible in the consumer space, and then landed on that home. Actually, we landed on that the women as a consumer is probably the one that's sort of becoming the early adopter on the internet. And then from women as a consumer, then we went into what are the different sectors and categories that the women as a consumer was sort of into. And then somewhere, I think we married what we call the triad, right? Which is where the consumer need is big, where the market size is massive, and where we were passionate about. And one thing led to the other. Over the last 3 months of 2011, I think we said, okay, it's the home as a space, which seems to be far more interesting for us. While grocery is a massive space, it just was not exciting for us. And home is where the need is so acute, because even we had set up our own homes a year back in Bangalore, and we found it extremely hard to get good quality furniture. So one thing led to the other. In 2012, around July, we started Urban Ladder. This was the time exactly around 10 years back when I quit the last time I quit my corporate job. So yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Rajiv, for about sharing your experience there. I will next move on to Mr. Narasimha Reddy. So it's the same question for you as well. Like, when did you decide that you want to be part of MoEngage or start MoEngage, and why? And who were your first set of investors? And how long did it take for you to get your first paying customer?
Thanks, Anusha. Thanks, Shrikant, and thanks everyone for joining us. Hi, Rajiv, and good to see Amrit after a long time. We were of the same batch. So, after college, I was into banking for a few years, and then there are two other co-founders of MoEngage who are again from the same batch, but not from IIT Madras, IIT Kharagpur. So we knew each other for a long time. In fact, Ravi, who is the other CEO, who is the CEO, another co-founder, is my schoolmate or roommate back in +1, +2 before we got into IITs. So we knew each other for a long time. So before MoEngage, while I was in banking, the other two were doing another consumer startup. It was something to do with retailers and consumers. We were offering offers and coupons in the nearby retail stores to drive footfall to the retailers. So this was back in 2011, 2012, which was entirely mobile app. So back in those days, mobile app was not so common. and we went completely mobile first. And that's when we realized, while obviously it is difficult to acquire users on the mobile app, the important problem that we were facing was not able to engage these users in a way that we want to engage them. So there were no tools existent back in 2014, which was helping consumer companies with mobile apps to engage with users across the touch points, right? Like be it mobile app notifications or in-app messages, which is so common today, there was no platform helping these consumer companies enable that customer engagement. So having seen the pain point ourselves, having spoken to multiple customers in the space back in those days, be it the likes of Ola or Snapdeal or ADDA and so on, we realized that it is a global problem. And that's what led to formation of MoEngage. It is nothing but a mobile engagement short,
Yes.
short as MoEngage, right? So obviously the product evolved a lot in the last 7-8 years. The initial set of investors were part of this accelerator called Alchemist back in 2014, soon after we launched. This is a B2B SaaS focused accelerator in Bay Area. Soon after that, where we got funding from Helion. Shrikant was part of Helion back in 2014. So you can say Shrikant is one of our first investors as well. And after that, obviously, we raised multiple rounds. We raised money from Matrix Partners, StateView, Multiples, 8 Roads, F Prime. So a lot of investors have come on board in the last 7-8 years for us. So that's broadly about how we started MoEngage, and I'll probably ask any other questions that you have today now.
Yes. So how long did it take for you to get your first paying customer after?
So we actually, we realized, or we always thought that we wanted to price our product even to our first customer. So you can say we got our first customer back in 2014 itself. I think soon, within few months after launch. So in fact, our first paying customer was Snapdeal back in 2014, and Taxi for Sure, Snapdeal. So all of these were like first paying customers for us. We realized that it is important for us to price the product early on, because otherwise we're not adding real value by offering the product, right? So it was very few, we got it in the very first few months of our launch.
That's nice. Thank you, Narasimha. I have a similar question for Amrit as well. So when did you decide that you want to start Zetwork or your own firm, and why did you choose to focus on something like manufacturing sector? Because you don't see many startups in the manufacturing space per se.
Hi, thanks everyone for having me. Yeah, our origins are a little bit more organic. Like my first job after I graduated in 2010 was with ITC. I joined as a management trainee, and it was a classic Russian reversal. You know, in ITC, when you join, the division chooses you, and not the other way around. So I joined this agri-business division of ITC, which is for all of the consumer brands. We source all the commodities, and my first role there was to build a new factory for them. So I literally just graduated in 2010. I was basically a kid, and they put me in charge of building this big factory. And in hindsight, it was a great first job. Like I remember when I got my posting, I got posting in this place called Guntur, which I had not very familiar with, and I was like, maybe I should find a different job. But I ended up spending 4 years there. 2 years in Guntur, 2 years in Mysore, building a new factory for them. That was the first time I experienced the problem we are solving at Zetwork, first time in a very hands-on way, and you know, it stayed with me for a bit. I detoured a little bit. I spent some time in the US after that. Firstly with business school and then with McKinsey. But very quickly I realized I want to come back to India. And when I came back to India, I reconnected with my co-founder Srinath, who's also from Insti, same batch as me. Both of us knew we wanted to start a company together, and we kind of went back to our past life. You know, we felt that the problem that I had encountered personally in terms of finding, you know, reliable solutions towards getting manufacturing products done was still an unsolved problem. So we started with that. It was a little bit of while on the outside it looks like I didn't wake up one day and decided I want to do something in manufacturing. It was a little bit more linear that way for us.
Yes. Thanks, Amrit, for that insight. I will go back to Rajiv for the next question. Like, how do you like when you started Urban Ladder, say 10, just as you said, 10 years ago? How did you get rest of your co-founders on board? Like, they were your classmates. Like, how did you do that? I mean, what it took to convince your co-founders to on board with you to start a startup like Urban Ladder, which deals in furniture?
It was less about convincing my co-founder. Actually, he convinced me, I would be honest. And because I think he was clearer that he was going to start up, I was less clearer. So we were talking for 4 years. We used to literally meet almost every other weekend in Bangalore when he was in running ACK and I was in Yahoo. And we were, I think, very clear that we wanted to start up together, right? It was just a question of which idea, because we had done a lot of stuff around 8-9 years back in campus together. So it was actually, I think, waiting for the right moment, because I think it's very difficult when you're doing well in your job to sort of leave everything and start up. So I think he was getting tired. I think Amachitra Katha was acquired by, Mr. Biani's group. And I think in Yahoo, I started making more presentations than products. And that was sort of working me a lot. So I think somewhere in corporate life, after 3-4 years, I think things get to you. And I think we were just waiting for that moment for both of us to sort of sync up. And I think that started happening around 2011 early. I think somewhere around after India won the World Cup, I distinctly remember. And so sometime when that started, I think convincing was not for each other. It was about clarity on the idea. And it was more convincing for the early people to join, right? Because it was also the first 3-4 people and convincing the first investors. That's where convincing, I think, was higher, and maybe even convincing customers to buy furniture online. Convincing friends and family that decision made a lot of sense when everyone was questioning as to who on earth is going to buy furniture online. So I think convincing was pretty much everything else, not just the two of us to start up, honestly. So
right. So who were your first set of investors, if I can ask?
Sure. We actually, we got our first investment from Kalari Capital. We ended up raising around $100 million across those. Across the first 3-4 years, we ended up raising $100 million. And we had Kalari, and today Saif Capital, which is called Elevation today, was our second investor. So Vani was a big, who heads Kalari, was a big fan of furniture and home decor. And she sort of really believed in the space. And she had also invested in Myntra and a couple of other e-commerce companies. So she was big on commerce, and she was also very big on home as a space and the woman as a consumer. So I think she took the first bet sometime around exactly, I remember, I think almost exactly 10 years back, we were signing our first term sheet. So they were the first investor.
Awesome. So like you mentioned that it was difficult to convince anybody to buy furniture online. I mean, in Bangalore, it is easier to go buy it from Infantry Road rather than order it online, at least that time. So how long did it take for you to get one customer who's not known to you to buy it online?
We were lucky to get that first customer just before we started up. July 12th, we launched, July 12th, 2012. But I think someone wanted a study table for their kid who was studying 10th grade. And she saw the product, which we were just sending photos at that time. We didn't even have a live website. So her name is Meeta, and she actually ordered. And I remember, I think Ashish and our head of operations, they actually personally went all the way from our office was in Marthali, and went all the way to North Bangalore, somewhere near Hebal, to deliver that and get feedback. And then sort of it started, because we had shared it on Facebook and Twitter, and a couple of my friends who had a lot of fan following on Twitter and Facebook, they sort of reshared and retweeted, and then it sort of went into the next set of networks. But really, the first person that we didn't know who bought it was before we even launched the website.
Awesome. Nice. I will move to Narsimha. So the same question for you, like how did you onboard rest of your team, and what are the main challenges that you see in building a SaaS-based marketing optimization product?
Yeah, so I think good part was we were able to convince most of our batchmates to join in the early of our journey. I think from Kharagpur and other IITs as well, not just IIT Madras. And so fortunately, we were able to get funds very soon enough after our launch. And that kind of helped us afford people. So we did not have to ask people to come at pay cuts or anything of the sort. That kind of helped us to get the initial few employees or partners on board. And the fact that the startup was just booming up back then, being the likes of Flipkart, Ola, and many more have started during. So Ola was obviously again started during 2014, while Flipkart was early on, and Flipkart had started that growing phase in 2014, 2015. So people have been okay to come to startups as long as they are paid what they, yeah. So it did not definitely takes a lot of time and effort from us to convince people. And obviously ESOPs as a concept we formulated back in 2014, we actually had kind of educated a lot of people while joining what ESOPs could do. And today I would say we're glad that more than 60% of our employees have ESOPs. So we basically took the route of ESOPs and comp, and at the same time idea of building products in India for the world to get the initial employees on board, I would say. So, and
I mean, moving to Amrit, same question, right? Like how long did it take for you to onboard your co-founders, and how long did it take to get your first paying customer? Because it's a manufacturing sector.
Yeah, in our case, I think the founding came first. Like in my case, I had just moved back from the US to India. So for me, I started reconnecting with folks who obviously had gone to college with or worked with. In my case, Srinath and I both went to undergrad together at IIT Madras. Both of us were in Narmada Hostel. Both of us went to exchange program in Singapore. Both of us went to ITC. Both of us were in the same division, and both of us were reporting the same boss. So, it was a decade-long friendship, which converted into like an opportunity to start a company together. I don't think I would have started Zetwork without him. It would have been very difficult. So for me, the co-founding team came first, and then we iterated a little bit in terms of what we wanted to do, but fairly quickly converged on the idea of what eventually became Zetwork. And then over the next few years, that journey of convincing, whether it's team members, investors, or customers, that never stops. Yeah, it gets like the first customer is always special. The first employee is always special, but it's still as hard for us today. Though we have a little bit of quote unquote traditional success, but we still have to compete fiercely within the market for top talent. We still have to do a lot of we stay rooted to what worked for us 4 years back, and we continue to double down on that even today. Like our first engineer, I remember our first engineer, he was about to join somewhere else. I literally asked him to come to our office and said, dude, you have to join us. Tell me, what does it take? We just spent like an hour or two together, and just went through every concern that this person had, and he's still with us. It's been 4 years, right? And he's one of our top engineers in the company. So I think that journey of being an entrepreneur, the challenges become different at different stages of company building, but fundamentally they always stay the same.
Thank you for your insight, Amrit, there. Next, I will go to Rajiv. So, while you were scaling up Urban Ladder, right, you would have surely faced some challenges with respect to inventory, with a lot of people ordering furniture online. How did you deal with issues of inventory which comes with e-commerce business, and what are the challenges that you faced?
I think the inventory as a challenge is therefore pretty much everyone operates in commerce, and more so for a private label. 2-3 things we did. I still don't think it ever will be fully solved. I think in the earlier days we had just a much lesser number of SKUs. Catalog was far more limited, and that obviously solves the inventory problem at a much higher level. 2 is, of course, shift as much as possible to just-in-time manufacturing in terms of manufacture after order rather than manufacture before order. We can't do it for all products, specifically because the furniture supply chain, at least in India, is extremely manual, and it doesn't use much machinery. But we could do it for sofas, which was a big part of our the categories. So around 25-30% of business was from sofas. So at least for that as a category, we could do that. I think the third one was we could also gamify a bit on the demand when something was out of stock. For example, just 3 months out, we actually had a situation where 50% of the catalog was out of stock. And as a startup, the last thing you want is so much of your catalog out of stock, because there's just nothing for the customers to buy. So what we did was we actually introduced a feature called pre-order, which is you have to wait longer than a usual schedule. Usually we ask customers to wait for 15 days, and this was probably under manufacturing. So you ask customers to wait for anywhere from 30 all the way to 90 days. But we sort of, instead of saying that you have to wait for longer, we said, if you pre-order now, you get a 15% off. If you pre-order, if your waiting time is 90 days, you get 15% off. If your waiting time is 60 days, you get 10% off. So it was like a ticker, right? It was almost like a time bomb. Yeah, and obviously, even though it was only 5%, it still is gamifying enough to say that, hey, I will place the order today. From tomorrow, it's going to be lesser. So we just sort of converted that into an opportunity to sort of still sell and not keep the product out of stock. Of course, someone who wants the product next month they're not going to wait. But furniture is also a bit more of a planned purchase. It's not like, as much as impulse and fashion. And at least 8-10 years back, it was not like customers wanted everything in 1 week. Today, everyone wants everything in 10 minutes. But at least 9-10 years back, that was not the case. So we could we use the pre-order feature to also plan our inventory and stuff better. At the end of the day, still, it's one of the biggest challenges, specifically as we shifted from, pretty much 100% sourcing from India all the way to, I think around 2016 or so, 50-60% started getting sourced from Malaysia and China, because we started using other materials outside of solid wood. And so that is a very different challenge when you're working with suppliers abroad, because you have to have shipments, you have to have full containers. So it's just a much bigger problem. And especially as the catalog expanded from 200 items to 800,000 items, and not too many of that could be. So we've had our own challenges, but there is no secret sauce, I would say. I mean, either you have Apple level of data and prediction and maneuvering of supply chain, or you just are very, disciplined in terms of data and just make it better. But still, the out of stock problem, quality issues, all of this sort of make everything go out of toss sometimes, right? Because it is a very new supply chain.
Then, it was during that time also Pepperfry started coming in with their own. They are also online furniture businesses. How did you deal with them? It's a competition.
So, see, in early days of any market creation, we pretty much started the market of selling furniture online, right? Pepperfry started with other categories, and then they got on to selling furniture. Pepperfry started a bit earlier than us, but they didn't sell furniture at the start. It was a lot more about everything else. I think the good part with market creation is, as long as you're doing a great job on the customer value proposition, the pricing, the product, just customer referrals, the entire experience, competition is not from anyone else. It's from your own self, right? So in the first, and even today, if someone does the job continuously well in terms of giving good designs, the market is still very nascent. In a $15-20 billion furniture industry, probably still less than 7-8%. And it was zero maybe 10 years back. Maybe today is less than 8-10% is online, right? So it is not really problem with A versus B. It is genuinely a problem of, are you able to get the product to the customer at the right time, and are you giving the same quality consistently? Are you able to get it at the best price? So actually, as much as customers and press love to ask this question on competition with Pepperfry and competition with IKEA, it was competition against our own scaling ambitions in terms of doing our job well. And that's where we've always faltered, not because someone else came and did something at us in the price, not at all.
That's a great insight. Thank you, Rajiv. I will go to Amrit next. So Amrit, you build products in the B2B space, which is mostly optimizing supply chain. How do you have a standardized process that you follow? There should be standardization that happens in the B2B supply chain, at least in the supply chain space, right? What is the process that you follow? Is there any standardization? What are the challenges in terms of regulations and on-time payments that you see? Because supply chain industry does have issues with the on-time payments, especially in the manufacturing sector. So how do you deal with it?
Sure. Firstly, I apologize for it's a little dark here, so I'm outside. But yeah, I mean, in general, like what we have decided is we will solve horizontal problems. Horizontal problems are, for example, project management. Once you've gotten an order, what is the best way to get it manufactured? Transparency. Can we give real-time visibility to the customer from the date of placement of order till they've received the product? Logistics, and let's say, various supplier services. So when you build horizontal products, it is somewhat easier to standardize and build it cross industry. So for example, we don't do things like design. We work in aerospace, we work with oil and gas, we work with consumer products also. It's very difficult for us to do design for every industry because they're very different. But once we get a design as an input, we take that and find out what is the best way to get it made, which we have tried to horizontalize as much as we can. So that has been our approach to building software. And I think, for the next few years, that will continue to be the approach. Over a period of time, we'll start applying a little bit of vertical specific nuance. On the payments piece, that's very interesting. One of the big challenges that MSMEs face in India is actually getting payments on time. It is something we feel very passionate about, actually, in terms of trying how do we solve that problem. So it is in fact the root of a lot of the issues because of which manufacturing in India has not scaled to its potential. And some of the challenges that Rajiv faced when he was doing Urban Ladder, the very similar problems a lot of companies face, and it's a very chicken and egg solution. Some SMEs don't get paid on time. It leads to delays in orders, and then customers are unhappy. It's just a vicious cycle of negativity. So what we have started over the last 1 year offering various solutions around that, around financing and working capital, where if things are stuck for various reasons, here is an alternative solution where you can get your cash flow faster, and then that becomes one of the key growth drivers of the business moving forward as well. So in our view, all of these things that you mentioned become opportunities, and we try and address that.
Thank you, Amrit, for that insight there. Narasimha, I have a similar question for you. You are working mostly in the SaaS-based marketing space. So what are the challenges that you see in building a product like what MoEngage is building? And also, can you elaborate on the importance of digital marketing in today's times for building any business?
Sure, Anusha. I think, so I think obviously if you have to look at SaaS into multiple dimensions, right? There are multiple products which have been built for reducing cost or increasing productivity and so on. While our product is more focused on increasing the revenue for the consumer companies that we work with, right? So we basically help our customers understand their users and personalize the communications that are sent to each of their users to increase their revenue. So in products like us, consumers or the customers want more and more to do with the product, because every incremental thing that they can do using our product will increase their revenue, right? So they essentially challenge you to innovate faster. So obviously, while we started with mobile engagement, we soon have transformed or evolved into a multi-channel campaign management platform, which is helping customers understand their users across all the touch points. It could be mobile, website, or even offline when you go and purchase. Yeah, right. So we help now customers understand the user behavior across all touch points and target communications across all the digital channels that are available in the market today, right? It could be mobile communications, it could be communication on the website, it could be email, SMS, and so on, right? So we have to continuously innovate product much faster and obviously understand the customer needs by working with them very closely. That I would say is one of the important challenge, or I would say need for us to be more and more successful as a company. So that I think we have done it very well. We have invested in the customer success much early on in our journey, and we listen to our customers very closely and understand their needs very, very closely, right? So that is, I would say, one of the important piece that we have been able to crack. And on top of it, I think obviously, while SaaS is one of the hottest segment today, when we started, it was not. I mean, I don't think very few investors understood building products in India and selling globally, right? I think we obviously had challenges in raising initial capital. The difference between Series A and Series B was close to 3 years, and Srikanth again had done an investment from Angelist in 2018, and after that, I think the market understood the importance of SaaS, and it was much easier thing. But the initial set of its investors took a lot more time to get convinced and come on board. But otherwise, today it is not a problem or a challenge, I would say, for new SaaS companies than what it was before, right? So, in terms of importance of digital marketing, right, I think it is only becoming more and more clear for consumer companies. Though obviously, all of us know the internet-first startups like Big Basket or Urban Ladder or anything, but a lot of us don't know or don't realize in a day-to-day how offline people are transforming online, right? So now if you see, let's say, for example, Landmark or even Future Retail and so on, everyone who was completely offline during 2018, 2019, or very minimal online presence have started focusing more and more on digital marketing needs in the last 2 to 2.5 years because of the pandemic, right? So it only accelerated the adoption of digital presence for a lot of these consumer companies, even for example, banks as well, right? So banks or financial services or insurance players, all traditional businesses which were not heavily focused on digital marketing or online presence now started focusing on online presence. And obviously they realize the importance of digital marketing, which is now a biggest revenue driver for most of the companies as we speak.
Thank you, Narasimha, for your insight there. I will move to Rajiv. So Rajiv, once after you exited Urban Ladder and now after you moved to Antler India, what has changed in your approach to work and life in general? And what are you trying to do differently at Antler than what you did at Urban Ladder?
This is a very philosophical question. I think all of us will have 10 years of being in the startup industry, graze your hair faster than any other industry, I think. But I think what's not changed is general excitement about tech in India, and the founders who are starting up today compared to the founders of last decade, I think are younger, more mature, and just more dynamic and more risk taking, right? So which essentially means that in my current role, you just have to be far more out there, right? Compared to when you started up 10, 12 years back. So I think we are, at Antler, at least the way we look at just being out in the market, it's only actually been 12 months since we launched Antler, but I think we've done a pretty fair job of creating a brand that's out there. I think the consistent things that I would still keep in terms of work is getting a great team. And whether that's my co-partner Nitin or the rest of the gang, we now are 15 people strong in just the last 12 months. making sure that culturally people are aligned, because we had that at Urban Ladder, very, very strong culture of people. And I think some of those continue, right? Having a very bold vision, having a strong brand, having a very great, having a phenomenal team, and making sure that holding that bar and a very fine line between very high quality but being approachable as people, right? We call it the accessibility, aspiration and accessibility, and somewhere in that line. Because at the end of the day, today founders are everywhere. Founders are probably today working in a Swiggy or a MoEngage or a Zetwork. I promise I will not come and actively poach, but our next founders are all there, right? So we just have to, I think, engage and build that community much stronger. And how I think it is for me, in terms of just personally, life wise, I think I have this personal philosophy called, it's not a new name, but all of us have one life. So at 43, I'm not going to compromise on one for the other. I think it is possible to sort of spend a great time at work and a great time personally. It is tougher if you're running a venture funded startup, specifically in the first 3, 4, 5 years. But I think it is extremely possible to be firing on all cylinders. I also don't like the term work-life balance as much as just going for the kill across all aspects of life. So when you go for a party, just enjoy the party. When you're in a forum, just enjoy the forum. When you're at work, just enjoy work. And I think we've been able to get the new set of people who are coming on board, I think, very strongly with that philosophy. People are talking about diversity on day one. People are talking about younger workforces on day one. So I think the way the companies are built today, the way people are channeling tech and, and dreaming bigger, I think it's all, going towards the next 10 years of my life as an investor being super exciting. So nothing to complain, nothing to change too drastically. I think it's just working with younger folks. I think that's the thing that I need to learn, right? Because the founders are all 25-year-old, and suddenly as a 43-year-old, you have to behave like a 25-year-old for them to relate. So that's the big thing that I'm doing different.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, Rajiv. And I think we're almost close to running out of time. So I would like you to give what is your top 3 advice for young entrepreneurs, Rajiv?
I'm not that old to give advice yet, but I think just
at least for aspiring entrepreneurs or to youngsters who want to start up, what are the top 3 things that you think will help them?
If you're in campus, just do a lot of extracurriculars, just build stuff, right? I think that's the first one. Just build stuff on the side. If you're in campus, if you're just employed, just build stuff, because otherwise your idea is just going to be an idea. So that for me is the number one. Second is, I think today, networking, I think, is going to be super important. And network when you don't need it, right? So talk to people, talk to founders, everyone is willing to give time for smart people. The community of IIT Madras, I think we all should be lucky, because the brand stands for something. And if you show energy and passion, and I would be surprised if you ping 10 people, at least four people won't respond to you and give you time, right? Whether that's investors, whether that's founders, whether that's people in startups. So network unabashedly, I would say, so that, when you need that network, they actually come to you, right? And the third one is, I'm just thinking, tech. Yeah, don't shy away from tech. Whether you're a computer science student or whether you're not a computer science student, I think everything, the term digital marketing, Anusha, to what you asked, there is only marketing. It is digital. Right. There is no digital marketing. There is, I think the word digital is lost its meaning because everything is digital. So it doesn't matter whether you're a naval arc. I was a naval arc engineer. I used to love computers then only. I used to code. It doesn't matter whether you're a naval arc or you're metallurgical or mechanical. I think technology is something that you just have to imbibe in everything that you do. Otherwise, you're going to be left way behind. I would say these are the 3.
Thank you, Rajiv. Coming to Narasimha, so you've done engineering at IITM. Can you give your insights of moving from being tech-oriented person to moving towards finance and now becoming the CEO of MoEngage? What has inspired your journey there, and also your top 3 advices for young and aspiring entrepreneurs?
Thanks, Anush. I think that's a good question. Maybe I have to apologize that I wasted one engineering seat, probably. Not being a core engineer, but yeah, I think I was actually in biotechnology, as Rajiv mentioned. Like you could be anywhere, naval or biotechnology or metallurgical and so on, right? So I don't think biotechnology as a function does exist now, but so it was clear for me in year one itself that this was not what I was going to do after college, right? I think fortunately, obviously, IIT Madras offers a lot of courses in other departments as well. So I was closely involved in DOMS, which is Department of Management Studies back in college. I did multiple finance courses. I was clear that this is the area probably, by year three, I was clear that this is the area that I would probably gonna spend time after college. So I think that kind of helped me to focus finance. I did an internship in college in finance, by the way. I think one of the rare internships back in those days, which no one had thought of doing internships in different departments than what you are part of, right? So that kind of helped me directly get into investment banking, right? So it was not very hard to get into. I was obviously placed in campus itself in IB, and then obviously spent multiple years in corporate finance and helping companies raise capital or acquire businesses or projects across my life cycle before moving age. And obviously today it's before it was more finance, less technology. Today, obviously, it's I would say equal balance of technology and finance, which is obviously good for me. Finally, I'm starting to use or started using back in 2014-15 of what I have learned something in college. So, and three pieces of advice, I'll just probably keep it to SaaS. I think there are more experts in consumer, and which I don't, to be honest, really know. So in SaaS, I think if you're looking to start to build a product, which obviously want to sell globally and not restrict to market, I think it's important to understand TAM, which is target addressable market. So a lot of SaaS companies try to build products, but they taper out at certain scale because the TAM was not so big. So it's very important that you envisage what is TAM for the product that you guys are building, and accordingly see whether this can be a large multi-billion business. And I think second, probably don't spend time only on building product. It's very important to speak to customers early in your stage while building the product and not after the product is built. I think that's something which we did as a mistake in the previous startup, where we spent a lot of time building the product but did not talk to the customers enough. So more engaged, we did it very right. Back in 2014 itself, as I mentioned, we got paying customers. So speaking to customers at a very early stage of building the product is very important. I would say at least speak to tens of customers, not just one or two, right? So that you get enough understanding of what their needs are and build your product accordingly, right? And probably third, I think maybe it's again more focused in SaaS. Invest in customer success teams very early. I think I've seen a lot of SaaS companies not investing in customer success teams and just building product and sales teams. So customer success teams are equally important to speak to the customers on a day-to-day basis and understand how they are, whether they're happy, sad, or they want to do more with the product, less with the product. So building a customer success team is also very important in early stages of your life cycle.
Thank you, Narasimha, for that. Amrit, last question of this panel discussion. So one question which we got a lot of people asking us was, what were the events or triggers that led to Zetwork becoming a unicorn, if you can describe that, and what are your three pieces of advice for aspiring entrepreneurs as well?
Sure. I think there's of course a little bit of excitement around becoming a unicorn or what have you. Ultimately, it's not as black and white as it is in the company's control, but to an extent it's not, right? Like what the company can do is build a good product, build revenue, build good economics, these are the things which are under the company's control. And of course, if the company executes well, then the market has a way of valuing that performance, right? And in some way, a unicorn outcome is nothing but a reflection of that, and I would say, certainly that's something we never really chase that as a metric. I think it happened as an output versus it happened as an input, and that would be my advice number one to start with. Like, I think when we start this journey of company building, it is a long process. You will see all kinds of things in the news. I think it's important not to get distracted by that. There is actually no playbook at all. I also I mean, I'm a little bit contra here. Like, I don't think there's any real playbook for building a company. Like, it is you have to kind of experience that process yourself. Listen to what the company tells you, listen to what your customers tell you, and listen to what your employees tell you, and then maybe just react as quickly as you can, and have an open mind. So, I would start with that. Like, don't chase a valuation, chase, input metrics, and then, if your business is a good business, then it will eventually happen. The second thing is also, like, if I look back at my journey at IIT Madras, like, I echo Rajiv's point a lot. Like, I did so many things. I was involved in Sarang, not sure if that's still around. I was part of the core team there doing spawns. So that was actually my first experience selling something, which was selling an event and hoping to get money from folks. And when I look back, I realized what an absurd sell it was. Like, we were trying to sell corporates to come and advertise to students who did not have money, but we still somehow ended up doing it. And that is also like a great experience in creating urgency where urgency does not exist, right? And part of a company building process is that, like, nobody is in a hurry except you as a founder. Your investors are maybe in a hurry, but ultimately the urgency that you create kind of cascades down. So I think it's important to explore yourself fully, and figure out what your strengths are, if not what your weaknesses are, and then double down on those. The last bit is also again similar. Like, I met my co-founder from Insti, IIT Madras. I met my wife at IIT Madras. So, I have a very personal equation with the campus, and it's very difficult to kind of put it in very black and white cause and effect manner. I think there's a lot of osmosis that happens in a campus environment like IIT Madras. So that in my view is the best way to spend time. And yeah, if you have clarity on whether you want to create a company, that's great. But if you don't, that's fine as well. So there's no need to put any pressure on yourself.
We can't hear you, Amrit.
No, that's it. I was done.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Amrit. Thanks, Rajiv, and thanks, Narasimha. I am opening the panel for Q&A.
So can I just jump in and
sure, Krishnan.
Add an interesting, this is Shrikant.
Yeah, hi, Shrikant.
So very simple kind of osmosis here, right? So Narasimha is right. I knew these kids before they started more engaged. They were doing something else, especially his co-founders. And then we put in the first check. So that was one very interesting nexus here. The other thing is, interestingly enough, Amrit studied at the same high school as my daughter. Okay. And the third interesting connect here is Rajiv's first investor, Kalari. Vani and I used to actually have our first startups in the Bay Area during the time TIE started up, and we used to go around with a begging bowl to get funded. So it's a very interesting thing. Osmosis is key, and I think it's very important for everyone here to understand the power of that network. And it keeps giving in many different ways. So I just want to kind of underscore that, and you can proceed with the Q&A.
Thanks, Shrikant. Any questions from the audience, you can unmute and ask, or you can put it in the chat.
He's not able to unmute. Can you unmute him?
Yes. I have unmuted you, Mr. Ramanathan.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Ramanathan here. MBA batch from DOMS 2019 pass out. So, I have already asked a question in text in the group. I want to explain on that because all of us get some ideas or get some spark someday, but the major gap or which is stopping us from ideating that factor into a proper business is where to start from, or how to what step to take as a to make it a proper business or a proper first step in business. Because whenever we think our own ideas or our own negative possibility scenarios are coming into mind that so this won't work. So how to come out of that our inner voice that is stopping us?
I'm happy to take that one. I've had a very personal experience there. Like when I was graduating from business school in the Bay Area, like I was in the same zone. Like I wanted to start a company. Like I felt that is my calling, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I tried a bunch of different things, and nothing really worked. I went to a professor, and I asked him, "Hey, I've got a job offer from McKinsey, and should I take that or should I do a startup?" And he said, "If you're asking me that question, then you should join McKinsey. You know, because you can't outsource this to anyone actually. Like this has, like my view is that this clarity cannot be outsourced, unfortunately. Like in my case, I came back to India. I spent 8 months actually till I figured out what it is I wanted to do. Of course, it was difficult because I didn't have any income for that time period, and I was this reverse culture shock of moving back from from US to India. But I don't really know if there is any shortcut to that. Like maybe others can chime in, but that has been my experience. And sometimes you can look back at your personal journey. Now, in my case, I went back to my first job, and I found inspiration there. But I don't know if there's any framework per se to this.
I agree with Amrit. It's funny that, at Antler, one of the things that we are trying to do is to sort of try and provide a platform. We call it the -1 to 0, okay? Where you're still working in a company, and it could be any company, and we are trying to see if we can do something there outside of you. You get a lot of content today. You have a lot of community. You have a lot of events. So there's enough and more of that already that exists. So it's certainly not just about connecting you with people and brainstorming and stuff. I think the -1 to 0 is a sort of a, no one knows as to what's going to be the trigger for you to where I call 0 is to become a founder. You've quitting your job, you're becoming a founder. We call 0 to 1 as building out the product, getting your co-founding team, and just getting the 1 as sort of the launch of your first version of the product, right? So I think the 0 to 1 has a lot of content and resources and stuff. But -1 to 0 is a very unknown, right? Amrit has his own story. I have my story. I'm sure Narasimha and his co-founders had their own story. It's a very unique thing. The one thing I can tell you, Ramanathan, right, in terms of, I think you have to be very clear on, there is usually something beyond just wanting to start up, which is usually, bothering you, right? I'll tell you the wrong things, which should not be those, right? Which is making shitloads of money. There are better ways to do it. The bad boss, there are better ways to solve it, right? And even within starting up, there are, I would say, just simplistically, there are 2-3 ways to start up, right? One is just to become, you want to be your own boss, you want to be a freelancer. That's a very different thing. You want to build a company which doesn't have anything to do with venture capital. You want to make it bootstrapped, you want to run it profitably. Then there is a very clear way. There are enough and more success stories, big success stories, small success stories. A lot of IITM folks that I know who have run bootstrap companies, not venture funded companies. And then there is this beast called venture funded, which the 3 of the people on this panel have chosen to go that route, right? Or chosen to be in that industry. The third one is the most pressure filled. The third one is the most pressure filled because you're growing your company at 2x, 3x, 4x every year, which means you as a professional have to grow 2x, 3x, 4x every year. You're going to face so many ups and downs, personal, professional. You're going to have investors on the board. There is no more your own boss. The board, you're reporting to the board. You can be a founder. You might hold 5% of the company in just 4 years, 5 years. And you have 4 other people who probably hold a higher financial stake. So the only true reason is you are really gearing to create something from scratch, or there's a particular problem that you're just not able to sleep without solving. Okay, it is usually one of these two that make you into a founder. And to make you into a venture founded, it is to really build something of massive scale in terms of people and in terms of customer impact and stuff. Everything else is secondary. Money, fame, all of that may or may not happen, but really it will really hit you. And if you're young enough, thankfully you have a lot of years to get there. There's nothing wrong about being a founder at 40 also. Statistically maybe lesser such numbers, but I think you can discover yourself. The one thing I would suggest if you are in the discovery process is to join startups and not big companies, right? Because today 10 years back, I didn't have that option. Today, for someone getting into the workforce or someone just graduating, there is that option of humongous number of startups, Zetwork and MoEngage and so many others which have great talent. So you'll have a much higher chance of finding your co-founding team member, your first angel checks from the founders of that company. Make sure Amrit writes you a check if you join Zetwork. It's just so much easier to actually start up today. And so I just, it will happen. You just have multiple ways, and just make sure that you just take those first steps. Don't sit in a big company. Don't be in the same company for 5-10 years. All that is just going to get you into a comfort zone, which is absolutely the last thing. If you're just convenient, comfortable, big company, getting salary year on year, getting hikes, getting married, having a kid, education loan, higher, bigger house, that rut called rat race is the thing that just moves you away from actually starting up. That big company rut and rat race, please avoid that. Then there is a very high chance that you will start up.
Thank you very much, Rajiv.
Yeah. So actually, my name is Narayan. You carry on, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. Should I? Yeah, Rajiv, I just want this question to you. I have trying to help raise funds for a company which is in manufacturing very high-tech semiconductor business, 2x per year growth for about 6-7 years. And when they go to the VCs, the VC don't understand the space. And we found a strategic investor, which is a public limited company. And for them, the time taken is so long. Here is a firm which has got a potential of 2,000-3,000 crore order, struggling with 20-30 crore order. Bank funding goes through balance sheets. And they're getting small bites, and frustration is high because high margin, high profit company. So how to solve this?
Well, I would first actually request Amrit to answer. He's done it. So, his answer is better than mine. So
can I jump in as an investor here, and then Amrit can answer, so that you get 2 points of view. The first thing is, I think it's not as though we don't understand semiconductors. It's not as though we don't understand supply chain. What was a rich manufacturing base in the late 80s, early 90s got destroyed. So most of our dependencies, even when you talk about semiconductors, are, even though you do designs here, the foundries are not here, right? And it takes a long cycles. And unfortunately, if you look at the VC community today, it's relatively young compared to the US, right? US, the VC community started late 60s. So I can talk about Venture East right now, right? We did the first fabulous semiconductor funding, right? And it's done fairly well in Hyderabad. But the point is, it's very difficult if you don't have self-sufficiency here to show the investor some scale. And I think India is building out. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the semiconductor area where the government is putting money. Hopefully it starts and becomes easier. That's all I can say. And the less I talk about banks, the better it is, because I have a lot of pet peeves there. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. So my name is K. Narayan Koi. Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I'm really facing some difficulty in my, in my endeavor here. So actually, so I really don't know how to move ahead. Actually, yeah. So yeah. So so that's the thing actually. So you want to listen the whole story? I mean, like,
it will become very difficult to solve something very personal in a forum like this. So you could pick one of us who you think is most relevant, and maybe just message us on LinkedIn, and we would certainly try our best to answer, because it becomes otherwise very
No,
difficult
it's
to have.
official only, so official only, so my aim was to make a B2C product into a bootstrap firm actually, and I had not taken any funding like that. Yeah. So, but I was doing it along with my co-founder, who is a student actually. His name is Rutvik Shalu, and so we were never met before. And we were doing, because the corona problem came and it was that time only, so we have never met before. And now it's actually time to do beta launch and all. So we're not able to communicate properly, so I don't know who's troubling me or what's the reason I need to correct myself. Yeah. So I just want to need, I need some kind of kind of disciplined or something like. Yeah, I don't know. That's the reason my project is stopped. So even though I think the product is kind of ready or something like that.
Shrikant, you're the most senior in this room. You should try and you should help.
Well, I think the first thing, Narayan, is I think you've actually reached out to me also. I think get to your own comfort zone, right? Don't put too much pressure on yourself. There are people here to help you out. We need to understand what the communication problems are. And that's what this network is about, by the way. It's not just about successful stories, it's also to help people out. So I think you should feel, as Rajiv pointed out, reach out to people. We are there, but we can't take care of every issue. So you have to be pretty open about stuff, and then that's the only way we'll be able to help you out in any way.
And this is not a trivial problem, right? So it's not one of the things that a lot of founders, specifically Indian founders, because we are not taught communication very strong in our undergrad, face, especially engineers, the nerds that we are. Certainly by the time we come to IIT and by the time we leave, communication is certainly not something that's consciously taught, specifically co-founder relationships and communication with each other. That's not taught at all. So I'm not surprised that this is one of the biggest problems. And it's not as much as I would love to say it's an easy problem, it is not. So don't hit yourself too much on this being a challenge. It is, sometimes it gets solved, sometimes it does not. And it's, in 2 minutes, that's pretty much all I think we can cover. But I think you should take this off.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rajiv. This is Vinod here. If there's no more questions, I think we can come to a close of this. I would like to propose a vote of thanks. I appreciate Amrit, Rajiv, and Naseema taking time off their busy schedule to be present. I think we have really gained a lot from the discussion that we have had, and we had interesting question and answer sessions also. I think we can take this some of the communication offline too. I thank the entire IITMAA team, especially Krishnan and the Chennai folks, Nishani, Maha, and Rakesh. I think IIT Bangalore chapter has really taken a lead in this. I thank Niket as well as Anusha for wonderfully conducting the program, and also the participant, the good doctor, Dr. Shrikant, who has really helped us intervene at the right time and give advice to us, and also the book launch that has happened. Thank you so much. I think we will reconvene for the next ADDA shortly. Niket?
Thank you so much, Vinod, for this vote of thanks. As I said, maybe we will organize these events in future as well. And I mean, you can suggest us. You can reach out to either me, Vinod, who is leading this this initiative, Entrepreneurship ADDA from Bangalore chapter, or Anusha, anybody from our team, and maybe what kind of sessions you want in this Entrepreneurship ADDA, or maybe who should be the speaker. I mean, all those things, if can come from you. So we are all open for that, and we will be organizing these sessions going forward. Thank you so much, Rajiv, Narasimha, and Amrit, for maybe sharing your words of wisdom today. Thank you so
Hi,
much.
everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Narasimha. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Amrit. Thank you, Anusha and Niket and Vinod and Shrikant, Shripande and Shibani. This was great. I hope all of you enjoyed this session. I think it was very informative and interesting. And have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.